Hello and welcome to your Urban Connection. Remember, this is the channel that is often imitated but is never duplicated. Now, let's get right to it. She came, she spoke, she was prepared, she's qualified. He came, he spoke, he lied, he distracted, he skipped around, danced around the questions without answering them. He is unqualified and unfit. Now, who is the she? You guessed it, Kamala Harris. Who is the he? You guessed it again, Donald J. Trump. And folks, after 90 minutes, let me just sum it up this way. She cleaned his flock. Okay, there's no other way to put it. She cleaned his flock. Now, she did much preparation in Pittsburgh over the weekend and on yesterday. She was well prepared. He did not prepare. He feels he doesn't have to prepare. But he's never, ever debated anybody like Kamala Harris. Okay? So here's what happened. Right out of the gate, Donald Trump began by lying, skipping the subject, refusing to answer the questions, dancing around, getting totally off his game, and not talking about any issues. Now, nobody should be surprised by that. After all of this time, and after all of his supporters, his advisors, his campaign workers telling him to do one thing, Donald, stay on message, talk about the issues. He just could not contain himself. He just could not refrain from attacking Kamala Harris on every answer. I cannot begin to count the times that he said that she was the worst vice president in history. Okay, as if anybody, even him, believed that. I cannot tell you the number of times that he continued to bring up Joe Biden's name to the point where at one point Kamala said, "Hey, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me." you know, so this was you didn't really have to watch this debate to know how it would come out because everybody knew that Kamala has the ability to stay on message and talk about what she wants to do for the American people. And I'm talking about the working class people. While Donald can only talk about himself, what he has done, and everything he has done, listen to him, was the best in history. Okay? But she got him, she basically laid the bait for him, and he took the bait. I'm going to tell you one moment that really, really, really got him upset. When she talked about the fact that many people that attend his rallies leave early because they're exhausted and out of boredom. Boy, you want to talk about getting under his skin? That got under his skin, and he never recovered the whole night. Because after that, he continued to talk about her character, about her inabilities, and about how she alone basically has destroyed this country. how she's been the worst. She's not done anything good as far as he is concerned. But when I know deep down inside, he wanted to call her names. But you know what came to my mind? About halfway into the debate, I remember the line that Kamala used at one of her rallies. Said, Donald, if you have something to say to me, say it to my face. Donald didn't say anything that he's been saying to her face. No, because she kept Donald off message. He didn't know what to do, and he didn't have any policies to talk about. So it was natural he wasn't going to come with any policies. He didn't answer any questions. He would always skip around, dance around. He was asked, Donald, would you veto a ban, national ban on abortion and on pills? And he didn't answer the question. He danced around it. And he proceeded to say, well, we don't have to worry about that because that's settled. And he lied. And this is the biggest lie he told all night. And he told a lot of them. He said, all Republicans, all Democrats, all of the professional people, all the women, everybody wanted to see the Roe v. Wade put back in the states, left up to the states, and not be a national issue. Well, that was a lie. And everybody over the age of 10 knows that was a lie. And he even himself had to admit that even red states, such as Kansas, voted against the doing away with Roe v. Wade by a big margin, not a small margin. It wasn't even close. Ohio did the same thing. Several states did the same thing. But he wants to lie and say, hey, this is what everybody wanted. He says, for 52 years, this is what everybody wanted. Republicans, Democrats, he says everybody, governors, congressmen, they all wanted this. That was a big lie. She put him in his place to tell him that he bragged about the fact that he selected and picked 3 anti-abortion justices to put on the Supreme Court with the loyalty to him to overturn Roe v. Wade. He brags about it, how proud he was of it. He took credit for doing so, for doing something that the country has wanted for 52 years. Well, Mr. Trump, why is it? If what you say is true, why is it that so many women, and I will use your words, Republicans, Democrats, okay, and wives of congressmen, wives of governors, the single women, why is it that they're voting for Kamala Harris? Because of the fact that women who are raped and who are impregnated through incest under your bill, your law, have to go to term with pregnancy. They're forced to do that. And if they want to get an abortion, if they live in Texas, they can't get it in Texas because of the fact that doctors are faced with prison time if they're caught performing an abortion. So women have to leave their state, those that can afford it, and go to another state to get legal abortion. But he lied about not only that, he lied about everything. He was asked if he was president, how could he, as he claimed, bring about an end to the war in Russia and Ukraine And using his language, he said if he was president-elect, he'd have a ceasefire before he was sworn in. When asked how he could do that, he didn't have an answer. He danced around the question. He never answered. He says, I know Putin and I know the president of Ukraine. I bring them together. Well, let me just tell you one thing. When you were the president, sir, you, I think, totally, critically, and I might say fatally, damage your credibility and your relationship with the president of Ukraine when you asked them to dig up some dirt on Joe Biden's son and even Joe Biden before you would release any funds to them, even though that was beyond your control. Okay, so you look, you don't have any relationship with President of Ukraine. He talked about how much credit and credibility that he had with Kim Jong-un, or whatever his name is, and also with Putin. Now, look, you have credibility because they can use you, they can manipulate you, and they know all they have to do is give you a few complimentary words, and you will fawn all over yourself and do anything you can to stay in their graces, their good graces. Okay? So while he was continually lying, and one of the things I did admire is these moderators, unlike the ones on CNN, these moderators did take Donald to task for some of his lies, and they corrected him. As a matter of fact, one of the lies he told was that in Ohio, some of the immigrants were eating animals. So the host moderator says, Mr. Trump, we have fact checked that. I've spoken with the city manager, and I don't know if the city manager or the mayor in Ohio, and they said they've had no complaints of any such thing. He says, I saw it on TV. I saw it on TV. Okay, so, this is just one example of what this man did and what he does. Look, the fact of the matter is, first of all, he's upset because he had his mindset on running against Joe Biden. He wanted Joe Biden to be there so he could talk about Joe Biden's state of mind. Okay? He wanted to talk about his age. He wanted to pretend Joe had dementia. But then when Kamala got in the race, when Joe bowed out, Kamala got in. She's 20 plus years younger than he is, very agile, very intelligent, very smart, and very experienced and well qualified. Well, that changed the whole game for him. And he hasn't learned quite yet how to get over Joe Biden. That's why he kept calling Joe Biden's name so many times. Okay? So she had to remind him, you're not running against Joe Biden. Okay? But Joe Biden continues to rent space in your head, Donald Trump. Okay? So, like I said, basically, all in all, I think it was a majority of the people. I mean, I watched a couple of focus groups. I watched a couple of opinions from polls. And I think, without question, she cleaned his clock. And that's just not me saying it. I mean, I've heard people say, several people say that this is the first time they've ever seen somebody stand up to a bully and put him in their place. And those are the exact words they said. Put him in his place. And he felt completely out of place. As a matter of fact, on TV, on another channel, I saw Lindsey Graham, one of his top surrogates, admit that this was a disaster. Remember, that's the word they used against Biden in the previous debate. Okay? But this time, it was a disaster for Donald J. Trump. He looked old. He looked puzzled. He looked frightened. He looked pissed because she had gotten him off message. She had baited him in several different ways at several different times to go to his normal self, his normal playbook, okay, and attacked her. As a matter of fact, he even one time brought up the fact that her father, she had to be a Marxist, he said, because her daddy was a Marxist who taught Marxism at Stanford University, I believe it is. Well, Mr. Trump, let me ask you a question. If we are to believe that, sir, we also have to believe that because you're a habitual compulsive liar, that your daughter would be a habitual compulsive liar too. Would you agree to that? So, like I said, Donald didn't come into a debate. He didn't come in to be presidential. He came in to do what he always does: lie, distract, denigrate, and talk about someone's character. And don't forget, talk about himself. Not one time in that 90 minutes, not one time did he say anything that he wanted to do for the American people. Not one time. He talked about how great he was, how great the economy was with him. It was the greatest economy in history. He talked about inflation. What he didn't talk about, and she did, was the fact that he left the presidency with fewer jobs than when he came in. But everything was great and rosy according to him. But I want to say this: the biggest prize came to Kamala Harris after the debate was over, because about 20 minutes after it was over, he got one of the biggest endorsements that he could ever get, especially from young people, from a young person. And that endorsement came from none other than, you guessed it, Taylor Swift, who has millions, tens of millions of fans here in the United States and hundreds of millions abroad. Okay? She's got a huge following. And that is the group of people that Kamala is going to need help from if she's going to win this election. But I think based on what I saw tonight, she will get some of those. Now, I can't say how many, but she will get some of those youngsters. I think based on what the American public saw tonight, several people, several 100,000 people across the country came away being Kamala Harris fans, supporters. Now, when you compare that to the number of Republicans who voted for Trump in 2015 or 16 and 2020, but who have vowed not to vote for Donald Trump in 2024, it spells disaster. It spells big trouble. Okay? And when you look at the fact that Kamala is outdrawing Donald J. Trump financially, matter of fact, in July, she brought in 3 times more money than he did. Spells disaster, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you. And the man looked deranged. He sounded unhinged. He sounded old. He sounded as though his mental purity is in defect. Okay, he's got problems, and everybody knows it. So now the talk is that, well, as a matter of fact, one of the things Lindsey Graham said is perhaps they should fire his debate prep people. Well, don't blame it on the people. Blame it on Donald Trump. because he refuses to listen. And I think they try to tell him, but he won't listen. He knows it all. I mean, after all, let's think about the fact when he was in office, he knew more than all the generals. He knew more than all of the medical people. He knew more than all the professionals. He knew more than everybody and everything. And look how it turned out. And that's why Kamala says, and so many others are saying, we're not going back. No, Donald. We've seen who you are and what you're all about. And we've seen enough. And we've had enough. So, ladies and gentlemen, Kamala cleaned his clock. There were some people that were a little bit uncertain as to whether or not she would be up to the challenge here. But I think she showed them that not only was she up to the challenge, not only did she stand up to the bully, and not only did she put him in his place, but she showed the American people that she's ready to be the president and work forward to improving the lives and the livelihoods of the working class people in the United States. I say, we're not going back. We're going forward. And anybody that is continuing to support Donald Trump is going backwards. And I have to ask you the question. Donald Trump said, we're going to win so much you're going to get tired of winning. So my question to you now is, are you tired of losing? And if you're just behind the winner, Kamala Harris, your next president. Okay? So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We waited a long time for it. It happened. And I don't think anybody except MAGA people are disappointed. Anybody that watched it had to come away with the same conclusion, that there was only one presidential candidate on that stage tonight, and that was Kamala Harris. Talk to you later. Take care. Thanks for watching.